calling the meeting to order of the MWPA Citizens Oversight Committee for December 7th, 2022. And Martina, would you call the roll?
Absolutely. Member Cole,
Present.
Member Chu,
Here.
Member Dilworth,
Yeah.
Member Minikis,
Here.
Member McCauley,
Yep.
Member Howard. Member Howard is not expected to be present for this meeting. Member Suggs, I'm sorry, Member Randolph
Here.
and Chair Suggs.
Here.
Barely.
Only barely?
Oops.
No, I specifically put on clothes to be here.
We're so proud of you.
A lot of effort.
Yeah.
Okay, I am scrambling here to get to the agenda, which is on another instrument, and so I'll be with you un momento to know about what comes next. It's probably something like
agenda adjustments.
agenda adjustments. Are there any adjustments to be made to the agenda?
And we do have a raised hand from Larry Chu.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a hard stop at 6:15 because I found out since our last meeting that they're going to have a Larkspur City Council member to honor a longtime member who's been with the city for over 30 years. So I have a hard stop at 6:15. I'm on the agenda to make a presentation for the Finance Committee. I'm going to defer to John McCauley on that, and we've had a couple meetings, so both of us are equally knowledgeable about reporting out on this.
Okay, thank you. John McCauley, I'm assuming you're okay with that.
Yep.
That's a nod. Thank you. Okay. Any other adjustments to the agenda? Sorry, my dinner was just delivered. Okay. Open time for public expression. The public is welcome to address the Citizens Oversight Committee at this time on matters not on the agenda that are within the jurisdiction of the committee. Please be advised that pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2, the committee is not permitted to discuss or take action on any matter not on the agenda. Comments may be no longer than 3 minutes and should be respectful to the community. Please silence your cell phones during the meeting. Mute your microphone when not reporting out. Martina, are there any members of the public who would like to address the committee?
If there are any members of the public currently wishing to speak on item number 4, the open time for public expression, please raise your hand in the reactions. And if you're joining us by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute yourself. Madam Chair, we do not have any hands for public comment.
Thank you. Executive Officers Report.
Good evening, everybody. Happy holidays. And I personally would like this to make this be the second year in a row in December time that I don't have to go run out and get my lawn decorations that blew across the street in the rain and the windstorm. So I'm hoping to be able to stay in the meeting all day or all night and not come back drenched. So hopefully that'll be good to go for that. December, as you know, is a busy month for MWPA. Lots of meetings just to get the work plan ramp up. This is meeting number 3 of 5. Our Finance Committee meeting and our ATC meeting today were partial trial runs of our new board chamber space. For Monday at the Finance Committee, Martina was in our space, and today both Ann and I were there. Martina was sitting a little off to our left, and we had Marin TV there helping steer the cameras and give us some training on it. I thought it came off really well. Pat and Larry, I know you guys were there. I hope the audio quality was good, the visual. As far as our experience there, the sound system, the way it's built in that room, those that were on Zoom when you guys spoke, it sounded like you were in the room with us, using the same microphones and sound systems. So I was really pleased with it. I can't wait for our first public meeting in there, full public meeting on December 15th. Speaking of the Finance Committee, we had the draft policies, went to the Finance Committee for review. Many of the policies were policies that we were tuning up because of recommendations from the COC, and some of them had already been identified for tuning up as well. So basically, recommendation 1A, policy 1212, which is the budget preparation, is a brand new policy. It covers recommendation 1A. For recommendation 1C, we opened up the insurance policy, and then it was like opening a Pandora's box, and it got very complicated quickly. So rather than rush it and have a poor insurance policy, we decided to table that for now, do our research, and make sure that we present a well-written insurance policy. It's kind of weird to say insurance policy, but and then one of the recommendations for 1C was for a budget preparation policy. So that's obviously 1212, which is the budget preparation policy. We have a grant application and approval policy that was brought to the board or to the Finance Committee, and then also covering compensation of elected officials landed in our internal controls policy. Recommendations 1D and 1E. Reporting schedules for unspent funds in local mitigation and DSpace. We tuned up policy 1203. And I know the COC was looking for quarterly reports, but the member agencies just felt that they could not meet the quarterly reporting requirement. But we were able to get more detailed into that, exactly what we are asking for them to report, and gave them a September 30th deadline. And then member Finn had a great recommendation that prior to the tax disbursements in July, that we have to have those tax disbursements would be contingent upon receiving those reports. So that got added. So that was a great observation from member Finn. And then recommendations 2A and 2B were captured in the budget preparation, and that was funding versus MWPA and requirements, or fundings versus implementation, the definitions of that, and also if a project has collateral benefits outside of wildfire, and how to address that. And then based on also your review and the auditor's review, we updated the internal control whistleblower to create greater additional layers of separation for approvals for our purchasing and payment process. And then now that we have 5 employees that are on payroll, and we tuned up the timekeeping and put more accountability in the timekeeping policies. And I do plan on giving the COC a full report in January on actions taken by the MWPA based on the COC's recommendations in your annual report. And we did have a meeting on Monday as well for the Citizens Oversight Ad Hoc Subcommittee appointment subcommittee, so we can make a recommendation to the board on December 15th for the 4 vacant seats. And without revealing too much, we had 4 vacant seats and 4 applications. I'll just leave it at that. And with that, I'll take questions.
Any members have their hands up that I can't see?
Lucy has her hand up.
Lucy.
You're muted, Lucy.
Nothing new.
So Mark, when you give a presentation to us in January, will you be going through the recommendations sort of item by item, and it's saying this was the thinking on this one, this was the response? Okay, so that makes life much easier for us than trying to sort of figure it out from different meetings and different policies.
Yeah, the process to meet all of the stuff that we needed to take action on covers like 4 different committees. So
Yeah.
it'll make it a lot easier if I just put it in one packet following your recommendations.
Terrific. Thank you.
And I'll raise my hand now and call on myself and say, I thought I heard you say you were going to do a write-up and a full report to the board in January. Did you say to us in January?
To you.
To us? Aha.
Yes.
Thank you. And let me see if I can see. And I cannot see. Are there any other hands up?
I do not see any.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
And I believe next on the agenda is the consent calendar. And it dumped me off the network. I love it. Okay. So assuming that everybody has, the only item on the consent calendar are the minutes from our last meeting in October. And I'm assuming everybody has read that. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Do you need a motion to approve?
Yes, I do.
I will move a motion to approve.
I'll
Thank
second it.
Thank you. Martina, would you like to call the roll?
You're muted, Martina.
Martina's muted. God, what is going on here?
No. If you've not
was
looked
like-
up, it's a beautiful full moon, folks.
Right.
It's
I was thinking to myself, I'm looking right at him and he's not speaking to me. Starting with you, Member Cole,
Yeah, aye.
Member Chu,
Aye.
Member Dilworth,
Aye.
and Member Howard is not present for this meeting. Member Macaulay,
Yes.
Member Minikis,
Yes.
Member Randolph,
Yes,
and Madam Chair Suggs.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Then next on the agenda, committee reports for monitoring of the Executive Committee, Board of Directors, and Finance. We'll start with Executive Committee.
so the executive committee has actually met, was scheduled to meet twice since we have last met. From that first meeting, I think the only thing of interest to the COC is just a little early warning that come March, we are going to have to be meeting in person, as are all of the committees of the MWPA. So just everyone be prepared. And the second executive committee meeting was actually canceled. So nothing to report from that meeting. And that's it.
Pat, do we know, or maybe Mark knows, any ramifications of having canceled the executive meeting? I thought they were responsible for doing the agenda for the board.
The agenda is put together between myself and the board chair or the board president, and then the executive committee has an option of weighing in on that. So it's not the first time we've canceled an executive committee meeting. We felt there were no agenda items and didn't want to waste people's time for.
And I say, yay,
Yeah.
more of it. Thank you. Okay, oops, darn it. This phone keeps hanging up on me. So next is the, any other questions or comments for Pat? Okay. I think if it's okay with everybody here, I'm going to hold off on going to the public until we get through with everything.
Yeah.
So we'll go to the Board of Directors report out from Lucy.
Well, in the sort of the converse of what Pat said is that we will be allowed to meet remotely, virtually. The board passed a resolution that we can continue to attend their meetings and the standing committees meetings remotely until the state of emergency is lifted by the state.
And that will be March.
Oh, has that been the
Yes,
state?
that's
decided
already
that?
happened.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that was really the only issue that I thought would absolutely affect the COC. So other than that, I think there were lots of interesting things, but nothing that we need to worry about.
Yeah, the state of emergency expires on February 28th.
Oh, it expires. I see. Yeah.
Okay, well, so sorry to punch a hole in that balloon. Finance Committee.
Yeah, so I announced myself at the beginning of the meeting to make it clear that we were there present. Rebecca did have one question during the meeting. I think Mark did a nice job of summarizing what occurred, so I have nothing special to report.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't ask if any of you had any questions for Lucy or comments for Lucy on Board of Directors meeting. And if you have, speak up because I can't see your hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Finance Committee, any questions or comments for John?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Seeing none. Okay, now let's go to the public to see if there are any comments from the public.
If there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the current item, the monitoring reports of item number 7, committee reports on the agenda, please raise your hand in the reactions. If you're joining us by phone, please press *9. And Madam Chair, it looks like we just have one attendee and we don't have any hands for public comment.
Thank you. So the annual report committees, we have writing, editing, finance, work plan, and transparency. And for writing and editing, I will give that report. I relieved Pat of having 42 things to do. Now she only has 41. You'll note that the writing and editing committee last time was called the editing committee. We thought we'd keep it interesting and just change the name each time, so you wouldn't exactly be able to figure out what we were going to do. We are having our first meeting next week, and the 4 of us will be laying out how we're going to get stuff done. And at that time, we will decide, yes, that writing, editing is the title and is right, or maybe not quite, and we'll tweak it, try to get it better. But the idea is we'll be doing more than just editing. We will actually be taking everything everybody has given to us and massaging it so it looks like it came from one place, and then putting it to the COC committee as a whole again for approval. And then it goes into the editing group or the drafting design group. And they will actually do the final, what the rest of us might call editing.
So I have sorry, question.
Okay, Lucy.
So is there another committee called a drafting design group committee?
Sorry, no, I meant the drafting design group that either is on staff or would be hired by staff to.
Okay.
I think she's talking about the graphic design,
Right.
the make it look pretty
I am.
outside group.
It takes a village to get a sentence out from me lately.
I have one more comment, if I may.
You bet.
So what I was thinking was that in order to get the process of every year we have to produce a report, that it might make sense to set up, and what I'm thinking provisionally that it might be called the ad hoc report planning committee. And maybe that committee could decide if there's going to be a particular focus or how the work could be divided up and studied by different ad hoc groups, or how the overall review process might go. And so that, if we all knew what the components were, the moving bits, and what we're aiming for, I think it would be, there would be clearer, directions for each one of the component committees to follow. And that's just a suggestion, but it seems like if we have that in mind when we start, we could more seem, and also the scheduling would also be part of that, I think. So, yeah.
And so how would that be different from what you think might come out of this writing/editing committee?
Because the editing part comes in at the end of the process. This would come in right at the beginning of the year when you're looking at the whole, we're about to produce a new report.
And so that would be the
Planning committees?
planning committee, and the planning committee might then say, we're going to end up with these 3 or 4 main topics to cover. Makes sense. Those would be the committees. You all might organize your work this way. You might take a look at these things so that everybody's sort of on the same wavelength.
Yeah, and Rebecca, Larry Chu has his hand up.
Thank you. Very true.
Thanks, Pat. I was just going to wait until the conversation ended. That's okay. We already put that together in that framework document last year. We shouldn't need to create another committee.
So what happens if there is a decision to sort of refocus the report on 3 major topics? Or, I mean, would that be a decision that gets made annually, or is there, do we cover the same ground every year the same way? That's I think the nub of what I was trying to figure our way around, or see if that was in fact how we would be approaching things.
Well, the finance portion and probably the work plan portion is pretty cut and dried. It would probably be up to each subcommittee to make their recommendation back to the full committee in terms of a preliminary report, see if they're covering the things they need to. Either that, or you can just open it up, when they're ready to start their work, if there's a specific item in mind that you might want them to look at.
And Larry Menikes also has his hand up. I know you can't see Rebecca, so I'll be your eyes.
I was just going to suggest a sort of in between. You could do as an agenda item rather than as a subcommittee, and just have it on the agenda. Okay, we're going into our next subcommittees this year. Let's agendize it, just have a discussion about it and move on.
Especially since there's a framework already there, and just
Right.
have a review the framework and let's discuss it.
Right. So it kind of
So-
answers what you're asking for, Lucy, I think.
Yeah.
I think that would work. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I may, the agenda item that we have now is reporting about what is going on now, not deliberating how to do things in the future. So just to
Good
keep
point.
us on track.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. So any more questions for me on the writing editing committee? And since
No.
Matt's seeing none. Larry too, you want to talk about finance? Or sorry, John. you wanna
Yeah,
talk-
I'm
No,
gonna
Larry's
go-
still here. Let's go with Larry.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, he hasn't disappeared yet.
either one of us could have handled it. In short, John and I have met a couple times. We got all the financial information from Mark and Alicia. Thank you. Staff's been very responsive on getting us the data. So we can basically answer every question that we did last year in terms of whether the MWPA is in compliance or not. And the only thing we need to do is to review the individual expenditures by zone, because what we need to do is to track last year's remaining balance and then include this year's to see how well they're tracking, because they can have up to 5 years to true up on that. So Mark, I never sent you an email this afternoon, but I'll email you back. I have some questions about that, so we can take that offline. John, did you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so first off, we're very lucky to have Larry here because he's really got outstanding Excel pivot skills. So he's basically made this giant report, which would have been way beyond me. So my first reaction was, when you're, I can't do this, so we need to build something sustainable. So in the corporate world, what happens basically is every quarter when you're getting ready to issue financial statements, you create a financial analysis document, and it's unique to every individual company, but it's a standing process that is built, and it's a very powerful internal control tool, because if something looks kitty bumpers, when you're looking from the top down, it jumps out at you, right? So what we're doing, Larry and I together, is designing such a document. And when we've got it totally sorted, it will answer all the questions, as Larry indicated. And as this is not a highly complicated organization, I think we can build something which will stand and will just be available every year, would be a benefit to the board, et cetera. And then it should be produced by your finance director, not by Larry. I mean, it should be done. We shouldn't be creating controls. We should be observing them. So we've had a couple of meetings. We'll get this done by January. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be a good document. And from there, everything will stand. And then I never could quite figure out how we link to the work plan. So as long as our numbers are the same numbers you're looking at in the work plan, that's the linkage, which will make sense. So I'm enthusiastic about tying this together and getting it finished. So Larry is awesome with those pivot tables. So
I really appreciate your work. So
yeah. Thank you very much.
You didn't sign up for that. Really appreciate it.
But just to make it reproducible in the future, I'll just document what clicks you need to do in Excel to put it together. Yeah, Mark's already got a copy of the spreadsheet from both years too. So it is immortalized somewhere on your network or file server.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments for Larry or John?
Seeing none.
Thank you very much. Okay, work plan.
So I am impersonating Jennifer at the moment because she is off on her trip. And just a reminder that the work plan committee decided to focus on the educating the public piece of work plan, given that the whole work plan is so much bigger than it was last year when we were looking at it, when it was only local projects. And that our focus has been on the UCCE position, fire safe Marin, and the defensible space inspectors, because they are interacting one-on-one with the greatest number of members of the public. And we have finished our research, and we are mostly through our analysis and writing phase, and hope to have something ready to turn over to that writing committee probably by the middle of next week. Fingers crossed that we will have that. And just wonder if anybody has any questions.
So I have a question. We have, and you, the committee, subcommittee will have shortly, the documentation of all of the data collected that staff put together for the local agencies on their completions of their projects. And then you will have a whole ton of data that says they had this, they did this, they didn't do this, here's how much it cost, here's what we budgeted. All of that info is on there. Once you actually have that in your hands, what will you be doing with that information?
Well, we know that information is coming, and we will be doing something with it, but we can't do anything with it until we have it. So I think that what we will be doing with it will be fairly simple, of just reporting out on that and not taking any deep dive on it. But that remains to be seen, that we need to see it first.
And I think I'm gonna let that question stew in my head for a moment.
And I think John has his hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I believe it's going to be agendized in January when we're getting back together again, when there are new members. I believe that's what the agenda said. And I would remind that that subcommittee that we were on created that document that had 3 parts to it, right? The first part dealt with what do we do when we go to those other meetings? The second part dealt with some definitional questions that I think Mark will get back to us on in January. And the third part dealt with the question of how we look into the details. So it seems to me that in January, when we meet again, once we kind of tied the relationship between what Larry and I are doing and what you guys are doing, it would be a good time to have a conversation about where you go in terms of your deep dives, just to make sure everything ties together, which is agendized in January.
Okay, and Lucy, you had your hand up, but did that get answered?
Well, I just wanted to check, John, that when you said the document, you're talking about the finance document, the control system that you're setting up. Is that what?
Well, no, we remember there was that subcommittee that looked at things, and then we all collectively agreed in August, September. There's that thing I wrote, which had one typo in it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's the thing that's got the 3 parts to it, right? So
Okay.
2 parts dealt with us, the top and the bottom, and the middle dealt with some definitional questions that were relevant to the 17 districts. So.
Okay. That's all for me.
Any other questions, comments for Pat? Okay. Then we have transparency. Kingston.
Hi. We've been focused on 2 issues. Number one is that any improvements in the website. We've got a great deal of information from Mark, which we'll put in our written report. And the second thing is we've been following the transition from our recommendations last year into an adoption by the board, and that's the finance committee hit on almost all of those items last week, and it looks like we're going to be able to come up with a report sometime in January. We're going to meet early in January and draft something up covering those 2 issues. We should be ready to go with fine tuning of depending on what Mark comes up with in mid-January. That's where we are.
Good, thank you. Any questions or comments for Kingston?
And we see no hands.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Martina, we want to check with the public on annual report committees.
If there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the annual report committee's item on the agenda, please raise your hand in the reactions or press *9 if you are joining us by phone. Madam Chair, we do not have any hands for public comment.
I think our one and only public left.
Oh, no.
Oh my gosh. Comment?
That's how boring we are.
Okay, party time now. The recommendation is to receive the reports and discuss, and I think we did that. Okay, item number 8, action items. We need to elect a vice chairperson. So process will be to make nominations and then vote to elect a vice chairperson. Do we have any nominations? Pat, your hand is up.
Yes. I would like to nominate Jennifer Howard. I have worked with Jennifer on a couple of different committees, and I have found her to, she's got excellent skills, among others, good people skills. But maybe more important than that, because she's not one of the people who's been here since the very beginning, she brings fresh ideas to the process. I think it's also important that she bring the West Marin perspective, because most all the rest of us are 101 corridor centric. So I think it's good to have a new perspective there.
Thank you, Pat. And I'm assuming you're not just picking on her because she's not here.
Yeah, well, knowing that she was not going to be here, I did take the precaution of asking her. And she said, should she be elected, that she would be happy to serve.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other nominations? It's awfully quiet out.
If there are no other nominations, I would support what Pat suggested.
I'll second it.
Great. Do we do a regular round? I guess we do. So no other nominations, then we will vote for, if you approve Jennifer Howard as the vice chairperson. Martina, you want to take the role?
Certainly. I apologize. My phone is not on silent, apparently. I apologize to all of the members of our community. Member Cole,
Yes.
Member Chu,
He's left.
Member Dilworth,
She's nodding her
You're
head.
muted.
Yes.
Member Minikis,
I approve.
Member Macaulay,
I agree.
Member Howard is not present. Member Randolph
Yes, enthusiastically.
and Madam Suggs, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Perfect. So that is a unanimous vote of all in attendance, minus, I believe, Member Chu, who is no longer in the meeting, and then Member Howard, who is not here today.
Very nice. Thank you all. Okay. Thanks. Racing the skids with Jennifer. Okay. Moving to information items. I stuck MWPA committee assignments update and meeting dates in here. Meeting dates was just a heads up that in your email somewhere, you should have seen that ATC and OPS are starting their meetings. ATC was today, OPS is next week, I think, or later this week. And then
The easy way to remember, if I may, Rebecca, ATC first Wednesday of the month until May, and OPS second Wednesday of the month until May,
thank you very much.
at 10 o'clock for both.
And then, thank you, Mark. And then assignments, to make sure that you all knew that you had one, at least, and sometimes two, assignments to attend and observe and report back about the doings of the MWPA. I'm sure you do, because you've all been reporting and nodding your heads appropriately, so thank you. And we do have one open spot, the secondary or backup person for ATC. I'm the primary and I intend to be at all the meetings, but that bus is waiting somewhere to come along and get me. So if that happens, it would be nice to have a backup. I asked Pat this time and she did sit in, thank you very much. But she's already got a couple, so.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll back you up.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So I won't notice that Larry Minikis doesn't have any assignments. So Larry, you
Well,
might want
Do I not have assignments? I did sign.
Oh, you did?
I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did.
So I don't have you down for anything, so you can just email me what you think you
Okay.
have. If you don't, then we'll take a look at who's got two and you can.
I tend to go to all the meetings anyway, but
I
Right.
knew.
Yeah.
I knew that. But I will put Kingston down as backup on.
Unless
ATC.
Larry wants to do it.
I'm happy to.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay,
Then you have an actual assignment.
Yeah.
a meaty one for sure. Okay, so Larry, I'll put you down as backup for ATC. Thank you very much.
Doesn't Larry back me up on finance? Is that right?
No, that's Larry Chu.
Or is it? Oh, it's.
I
Larry,
do.
yeah, okay.
I do.
Or Kingston does.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, right.
I listen to the meetings, every one of them. Okay.
Okay, maybe we really should have gone over all the assignments. Tell you what I will do is I'll finish that spreadsheet and I'll send it out, or I'll give it to Mark and he can send it out. Okay, that was that information item. Any questions about assignments or meeting dates?
I see no hands.
Thank you. Okay. Our next meeting, since we were sort of off schedule this time, I wanted to make sure that our plan is it our plan that we will start back with our regular schedule in January, and it would be January the 25th at 5:30.
I'm seeing thumbs up.
Okay,
Sure.
great. Okay,
Do we have a new chair when that happens?
we do.
Yes,
So-
that would be me, since the bylaws say that the vice chair gets to
Yeah.
move up, so.
Just making sure. Okay.
And you should have I doubt the board's not going to approve the recommendations from the ad hoc subcommittee, but you should have a full COC at your next meeting.
Sorry,
Okay, that was lovely, whatever that was.
Jesus.
that was me. My apologies. That was my wife. My apologies. Where are you? I need the rosemary.
My phone ring is Monday Night Football.
Ah.
And we all, that sound has not changed in decades.
No.
Yes.
I should get mine to be the Jeopardy thinking
Right.
tune.
And on that note,
Okay, originally we had said some time ago that we were going to have a discussion about the role of the COC in monitoring the local agencies' projects, and maybe a little broader than that, but that was the beginning of that discussion. And I'm going to suggest that we hold off that discussion until January, so that, at least, so that the new people can be part of it. I do think having everybody in the going forward COC is the right thing for this kind of a discussion. Any comments or questions about that?
John has his hand up.
So I'm a little confused because I thought the subcommittee dealt with that, and then we went to the full committee and we have some language which answers that question, right? That we attend the meetings and only report on if something odd happens. Didn't we all lay that all out already? I think that's already accomplished.
So my question, it came up again in my notes because the question, it comes up at almost every meeting. And so I just want to make sure that we don't need to have it again.
I thought we put it to bed, but whatever.
Well, if others think that, then we don't need to do it.
Let's table it for now. Just come back to it if we want. I think, yeah.
Maybe everybody going back and looking at all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't really have a big oar in this, but we all voted on it. We all looked at it. We all voted on it. It was just 2 meetings ago and we said, good to go. So I think it's a closed matter, but
Okay,
just my impression.
okay, then I'll just suggest that besides going back and looking at the framework and the 3-part notes that you put together, John, thank you, that we go back and look at this one as well and just make sure that we're all up to speed on it. And just FYI, maybe I should bring this up now too. We will be asking for onboarding mentors. I'm not sure if we have an official title for that, Mark, but we will be asking people to help onboard the new members. Actually, now that I'm saying that out loud, there will probably be one.
Right.
new
You got
member.
it.
You're
So-
doing the math.
Maybe.
So maybe this isn't
We'll
as big
see.
as I was thinking. I was thinking we were gonna have to find 4 people, but no, we probably don't.
Unless the returning members want to have an onboarding buddy. We can set that up too.
Yeah.
I think maybe I need one, because obviously I'm listening to do things. I don't vote. But I'm rolling out of office, it doesn't really matter. Okay,
You still got your clothes on.
I do. I do. We're lucky. Actually, it doesn't matter to me. You guys are very lucky. Okay.
Okay.
Any suggestions for future agenda items?
I have none, and before we roll on, and I'm seeing no hands, but before we roll on to adjournment, I would just like to offer my personal thanks, Rebecca, for all that you have done in your leadership role. And we all know that you have done it under extraordinary circumstances and have managed to do this with great grace. So I just want to really offer my thanks. And I know that some of your time got slightly shortened because of circumstances. And I know that Jennifer and I will be depending on you greatly in the new year.
Thank you. And I will tell you, I learned a lot about the process that I did not know, even though I was Lucy's vice and thought I was keeping her organized. No. And just FYI, I should probably wait till we're not recording. I don't care if the public knows.
We can stop the recording if you want, or we can adjourn and stop the recording and have a moment of conversation.
So if there are no other comments or questions or suggestions, I will adjourn the meeting as of 6:26. This meeting is adjourned. Okay.